Hello, today we'll be discussing about acids and bases. Okay, so let's divide the paper into two parts. So in one part we have the acids and then we have the bases. Okay, so what are the properties of acids? So first property is they are sour in taste and bases are bitter in taste. So you would have eaten the oranges or the lemons or maybe the tamarind. So they all contain acids. So they are sour in taste. And then bitter, I'm like for example, while taking bath, some soap enters your mouth. So you can taste it, it is like bitter in taste. So that contains a lot of bases in them, right? So remember this, acids are sour in taste, bases are bitter in taste. Okay, next important difference is the acids, they turn blue litmus paper red. And bases, what they do? They turn red litmus paper blue. Okay, so remember it like this, B for base, B for blue. They turn red litmus paper blue. And then the third and very important property of acids is when you put them in solution or in water, they form H plus ions. Okay, whereas the bases, they form only OH minus ions, the hydroxide ions. Okay, so remember this, it's very important property. So without acids can only show their property in presence of water, because in case there is no water, they cannot produce H plus ions, right? So they cannot show their property. Okay, so water is very important for acids to uh, show their property of producing H plus ions in solution. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk in detail about the reactions of acids. Okay, so let's discuss some properties of acids. Okay, so here we are going to discuss some reactions of acids. Okay, so in this class, you're supposed to know only few reactions. There are like lot many reactions, but at this point of time, you're supposed to know only few of those reactions which are required. So reactions of acids. Okay, so the first one is neutralization reaction. So you would have heard about this. So this is called as neutralization reaction. So during this process, what happens is acid reacts with base to form salt and water. Okay, let's take an example. Suppose I take suppose I take sulfuric acid. Okay, so sulfuric acid or nitric acid or hydrochloric acid, you can choose any of the acids, and then I take base. So most common base I can take maybe sodium hydroxide. Okay, so it produces salt and water. So tell me what will be produced? Sodium sulfate. Sodium sulfate plus water. Okay, so similarly, in case I have hydrochloric acid plus sodium hydroxide, it will produce sodium chloride plus water. In case I have nitric acid plus sodium hydroxide, it will produce sodium nitrate plus water. Okay, so take this as a question. You can try to write reactions for hydrochloric acid and nitric acid with same sodium hydroxide. So what will be formed? Okay, so please write that reaction and let's see how you get it. Okay, Okay, so let's go forward and discuss the second reaction of acids which you are supposed to know. Okay, so the second reaction is metals reacting with acids. So they form metal salts plus hydrogen gas is formed. Okay, so now you know what is the test for hydrogen gas? Yes, correct. Okay, so the test is when you place a glowing splinter near the mouth of hydrogen gas carrying test tube, what will happen is the glowing splinter or the lighted wooden splinter will extinguish with a pop sound. Okay, so that's called as the pop test for hydrogen. Okay, so let's take an example for this. So for example, we take sodium plus acid. So any acid you can take. So let's take hydrochloric acid. So what will happen? It will form sodium chloride and hydrogen gas is produced. Okay, so you can try with other acids and other metals, but the product will be formed similarly. Then the third reaction you're supposed to know is the reaction between acids and metal carbonates. So metal carbonates, for example, let's take first write the normal equation, the common equation, and then we'll take an example. So metal carbonates plus acids, they give you metal salt plus carbon dioxide plus water. Okay, so remember like this, you have the carbonate here. So you have the carbonate here, right? That's why there will be formation of carbon dioxide, right? So let's take an example now. So suppose you have calcium carbonate. Okay, so at this point of time, you're not supposed to know the formulas, but you can just remember you should know what are uh, the names. So calcium carbonate plus acid. So I'm taking again nitric acid I want to take now. So nitric acid, so it will give you what? Calcium nitrate plus carbon dioxide plus water. Right, so and make sure one more point you do one like you remember one more thing, when you're writing the names you write all the names, like don't write the formulas. Okay, so in a chemical reaction, in case they ask you the word equation, just write all the words. There should not be any symbols or any chemical formulas. In case they ask you the chemical equation, then you write the formulas. But as of now, I mean, like, you just write all the names of the compounds. So you should be writing calcium carbonate plus nitric acid forms calcium nitrate plus carbon dioxide plus water, and that should be fine. Okay, so let's go forward and then see what are the different uses of acids. Okay, so in this part we will discuss about the pH scale. Okay, so pH scale basically helps in distinguishing substance whether it is acid, base, or neutral. Right. So you would have heard the term indicator. So what is an indicator? Indicator is a substance which shows a different color in presence of acid or a base or a neutral substance. Okay, so that's the use of an indicator. So basically it indicates whether the substance is acidic or basic or neutral. Right, so there are like different types of indicators. So I mean, like you can measure pH, basically how acidic or basic it is by using a before that, let's discuss the pH scale. Okay, so pH scale goes from 0 to 14. Okay, so you already know this. And then so 0 to 6.9 is acidic. and then this is 7, which is neutral, and then from 7.1 to 14 is basic. Okay, so remember this pH scale. So a solution which has a pH of 6.8 is more acidic than a pH of 6.9, right? Or yeah, I mean, like, let's, for example, a pH of 2 is more acidic as compared to a pH of 5 or 6.5 or 6.9, right? And then a pH of 7.2 is slightly basic, and then a pH of 14 is highly basic. Okay, so remember like how the pH scale goes, because that's important. Okay, so indicator, so the litmus paper is a sort of indicator because it can tell you whether a substance is acidic or basic, but or neutral. But thing is, it will not tell you whether it is, I mean, how much acidic or basic it is. Okay, so for that, there are like different other methods. You have to use maybe a pH meter, which tells you the exact pH of the substance, or you have to use a universal indicator. Okay, so universal indicator is a solution which gives different color. So the universal indicator, it gives a different color in different pH. Okay, so this is called as universal indicator. Okay, so like in case you see a bottle of universal indicator, you can see the chart, like what are the different colors, or maybe I'll just show you how it looks in the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So now we are discussing about universal indicator. Okay, so what is the function of a universal indicator? It can tell you the exact pH of the substance. Okay, the pH paper, I mean like the litmus paper just can tell whether it is like acidic or basic, but the universal indicator, it can tell you the exact approx pH actually. So for example, you take a substance, I give you two test tubes, and then you have two samples in them, one, two, and then you put few drops of universal indicator, and suppose you get a blue color here. And then suppose in this test tube, you get a red color. Right, so you can, from this experiment, you can quickly tell that this is a base which has a pH of around 12, and this is an acid which has a pH of around 1. Right, so universal indicator can help in determining the approximate pH. And like for like approximate pH, a pH meter is a very good instrument to use. Okay, so for that, like you can, like we'll be studying in little later classes. For at this point of time, in case you know this properly, this should be enough. And then we discuss some of the uses of some acids. Okay, so you would have seen that whenever like you suffer from acidity, so you take an antacid, right? So now this acid, which is hydrochloric acid present in the stomach, is very very important. Okay, so in case it is produced in too much amount, it can cause acidity, but it plays an important role in digestion, right? So HCl, it plays an important role in digestion. It is present in the stomach. Then apart from that, the sulfuric acid, it is used in car batteries. Okay, then nitric acid, it is used to make fertilizers. Okay, and then apart from that, there are many other uses. For example, vinegar. Vinegar is also an acid, right? So in like food industry, also you use these acids. For example, the lemon or the orange juice, these are all acids. They contain acids, right? So they are also used in the food industry. Okay, then revise properly. In case you have any doubts, you can message me. Okay, bye bye. All the best. Do well in exam.